Hello, this is Billy Joe Saunders, WBO middleweight champion of the world. Subscribe to Sporting Icons to stay in touch with all the top news. God bless you all.
Right, so a question that I've been asked many times over the past few days, and I'm sure many other uploaders have as well, and many people involved in boxing have all been asked the question: is this the end for Billy Joe Saunders? Have we just witnessed his retirement fight against Canelo Alvarez? Is this the end of the road, the end of the track, the end of the line? Is Billy Joe Saunders about to head off into that retirement home for boxers? Now, I could just give you the yes or no answer, because I've got a 50% chance of being right, haven't I? But I'm not going to go down that easy route. I'm going to give you my overall thoughts, and of course I will give you my answer as to whether or not I think this will be the end of Billy Joe Saunders. Now, there's a lot of things to factor in on this one. Of course, the injury. Yes, he has had surgery on it. Broken eye socket, orbital bone, and his cheekbone fractured, broken in 3 places. So firstly, that's probably the biggest question, isn't it? How well is that going to heal? Is it going to be as strong as it ever was? Is it a case of, and for me, I believe that it would be, for a lot of fighters who get injuries on fight night through broken bones in their face and whatever it may be, I think that it isn't a case of it's just happened on that particular night. I think a lot of it is that with all the sparring, all the rounds, all the times that they've been punched in the face and in and around the eye socket and on the jaw and whatever else, his cheek was probably weakened when he went into that fight. It's probably been weakened for quite some time, as it has been with a lot of fighters. Just so happened that because in sparring you're wearing headgear and your opponent, of course, has got like 16-ounce gloves on fight night, no headgear, your opponent's wraps are wrapped even tighter, they're wearing small gloves, no headgear, and they're punching you with intent. That's when it's going to go. Okay, so for me, I think that his facial structure was already weakened going into it. I can't believe that it was absolutely fine and then it just happened on the night. I don't think that's how it works. I mean, maybe it did. I wouldn't know. So first thing is, how's that going to heal? Secondly, his opponents going forward, if he does, of course, decide to fight, his opponents are going to be targeting that. They're not like you and me. They're not going to feel sorry for him. They're not going to look at Billy Joe Saunders and say, poor Billy. I don't want to hear that crack. Ugh. I don't want to see his face fall off. God, no. I want to fight him and try and win on points by going through the body shots. All fight. They're going to do that. They're going to target that face of his. They're going to try and cave it in. They want to hear his bone crack. They want to see his eye fall out. That's what they want to see on fight night. That's what makes them unique to most of us. So he's going to have to be going in there with killers who are going to have that in their mind. Those who will have confidence that if they hit him flush, it may well go again. Also, would be the psychology of it, wouldn't it? Because it's one thing, I mean, I know people say, well, this fighter and that fighter, they had this done to their face and had the jaw broken, the eye socket, and they managed to come back and everything's fine. And that's great, but we're not talking about them, we're talking about Billy Joe Saunders. Everybody's different. How nervous is he going to be psychologically? As I said before, he can take out a year, however long it's going to take to heal. I'm not a doctor, I wouldn't know. But let's just say it was a year. He then gets back into training. It's one thing to do the road work and the weights and the cardio and all that kind of thing to get himself back into fighting condition. But when you put on the headgear and the gloves for sparring, that's one way to test your cheek and your eye socket for sure. But it's not going to be the ultimate test, is it? The ultimate test is going to be on fight night when there is no headgear. How's Billy Joe Saunders going to handle that psychologically? It's going to be very, very difficult. Because as I said, it's okay for this fighter and that fighter to go, well, they continued and they were fine. Yeah, but what about Billy Joe Saunders? We don't know how he's going to cope. He hasn't been in this position before. Psychologically as well, how's he going to handle people within boxing? Not just boxing fans and those who want to troll him and mock and laugh and call him a quitter, and especially over the things that he said about Daniel Dubois and whatever else. It's one thing for that, and I think Billy Joe Saunders is mentally strong enough to overcome all that. I don't think that would even bother him, to be honest with you. He ain't no stranger to getting abuse online, is he? He really isn't. And a lot of it is self-inflicted because of the stupid things that he's done outside the ring. But it's the fact that, can he take people within his own industry saying, you shouldn't fight? you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. Because it's different coming from them than it is coming from the likes of you and I. There's so many different things to look at. So many different things to look at. It's the psychological warfare of it. It's the physicality of it. It's a case of, is his cheek going to be stronger than it ever was? And you'd probably say unlikely. But there again, as I said before, I'm not a doctor, I wouldn't know. But there are so many different things to factor in. Also, well, where does he go? What weight division does he fight in? Does he continue at super middleweight? I mean, I always did think, why was he fighting at super middleweight anyway, when he's been a career middleweight? Is that due to lack of discipline? Has he been skipping over things in training? Is Billy Joe Saunders one of these people who has not just taken their first loss, and the first loss of any fighter's career, all of them will tell you, is the hardest one. Psychologically, that is the hardest one to overcome. So not only has he taken his first loss of his career, but he sustained that injury, but where does he go from here? Sure, he's going to be ranked quite high when he eventually comes back, if he eventually comes back. So he'll only need 2 or 3 fights, and he's back in there as a mandatory, knocking on the door of a world title, potentially fighting for a vacant title. So there is a route back for him, but at what weight division? Canelo Alvarez, if he manages to get the Caleb Plant fight, could become undisputed belt. He could just hold on to those belts and just defend them. So those belts can be tied up. Does Billy Joe Saunders want that rematch with Canelo? Does Billy Joe Saunders want to have to go fight some of the top contenders at super middleweight? Can he make middleweight? Would he want to move up to light heavyweight, where they punch a little bit harder? All these things need to be factored in. Now, as far as, do I believe his career is over? I would probably say yes. I think that fight with Canelo Alvarez is probably going to be the end right now. And I say that not because I want it to happen. I think it probably should happen, because at the end of the day, Billy Joe, he can look back on his career with a lot of pride, with all the belts that he's won. I think he's won pretty much everything that he could possibly win. British, Commonwealth, European, world, and world champion 2 times. He's got enough money in the bank. He can look at his house and go, right, this is bought and paid for. His children don't have to worry about closing the back and having nice food in the cupboards. The electric's going to be on. They've got all the electrical devices that they could possibly want. Christmas, birthdays, you don't have to worry about anything like that, which is the most important things, right? So does he need it? What's he going to come back for? If he doesn't want that rematch with Canelo Alvarez, I would say no. If he does want a rematch with Canelo Alvarez, then yes, he should. If he's willing to work at it and get back into a position where he is going to have a rematch with Canelo Alvarez, sure, come back. If not, then I wouldn't bother. He doesn't need to come back for a payday, so why bother? So for me, I think, yes, that was probably the end of it. Billy, he's got long periods of inactivity in his career, so he's no stranger to sitting on the sidelines. And I think that's probably going to be one thing that he may look at. He may look at it as, well, I don't want to have to go out on a loss, so maybe he may come back and have one semi-easy fight, get a win, and go out that way. Because not many fighters actually want to retire with a loss on their resume, but many do. But the thing is, I think that Billy Joe, I don't know, just looking at his career, especially the last few years, if he has the motivation to come back and not be a world champion, to have to work to get back into that kind of position again. I don't think he's really got it in him, to be honest with you. I mean, if he does, great. If his face is going to heal up, fine, great. But he's going to have to overcome all those things. The surgery is going to have to be a success. Psychologically, he's going to have to be in a very, very good place. I don't know. Honestly, I think if I had to say yes or no, I'll say yes. That is probably the end of Billy Joe Saunders. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, catch you all in the next video.